Salvete discipuli. Okay, so we are starting our review of Latin 2 to work up to our new material here in Latin 3. So the first thing we're going to review are verbs, and more specifically, to take this sort of in smaller chunks, we're going to review first and second conjugation verbs, okay? So let's remind ourselves about verbs in general, right? There are 5 characteristics of a Latin verb: person, number, tense, voice, and mood. I'm not going to go over all these so specifically, though you should write down these notes, okay? I just want to point out that in terms of mood, you guys already know the indicative and the imperative, and we're going to learn the subjunctive this year, okay? Most Latin verbs have 4 principal parts. I go through the 4 principal parts here, and again, you should write that down. The tenses fall into 2 categories. There's the present system, made up of the present tense, imperfect tense, and future tense. And the perfect system, made up of the perfect tense, pluperfect tense, and future perfect tense, okay? You can tell what conjugation a verb is in based on its second principal part, okay? First conjugation verbs end in ARE. Second conjugation, ERE with the macron. That is a very important macron because third and third IOs, second principal part, ends in ERE without the macron, okay? Fourth principal part is IRE, okay. You also use the second principal part to get the present stem, okay? You get the present stem for the first 2 conjugations, which is all we're talking about right now, by removing the RE from the second principal part, okay? And then you're going to add your personal endings to that present stem to form the present, imperfect, and future, active and passive indicative, okay? Perfect active stem, you take your third principal part, remove the long I, and that gives you your perfect stem, and then you add your perfect endings to those, and that's how you form the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect active indicative. The perfect passive form is the 4th principal part with the ending changed to match the subject, and then a form of the verb to be, and that's how you form the perfect passive, pluperfect passive, and future perfect passive indicative. And again, you should have notes. You should be writing notes on all of these. Now, I am going to go through and show you a paradigm of a first conjugation and a second conjugation. So you should pause the video to write this out. Again, do you know these forms? Probably. You've been doing them for 2 years now. But I really want you guys to take this time to thoroughly review the indicative and imperative forms, because we are going to be moving forward this year, and I want to make sure that you are very, very clear on these forms as we move on to the subjunctive. So pause the video and write all this out. I also have it in the passive, so that was the active slide. This is the passive slide, okay? And again, you should be pausing and writing all this out. I also have the supplemental information on the present active infinitive and the present passive infinitive. For first and second conjugation verbs, to form the present passive infinitive, you replace the final E of the second principal part with a long I, and that makes to love into to be loved. The present active imperative in the singular, if you want to command one person to do something, it's the present stem. If you want to command more than one person to do something, that is the present stem plus TE, the ending TE. So here, ama, amate. Now, if you know how to follow that pattern for the first conjugation, you know how to form the second conjugation. In fact, this is exactly the same process for conjugating, okay? And again, you should be pausing the video, writing all these forms out. It is good practice for you, and I will be looking. So make sure you're doing that. That's the active. This is the passive slide, so make sure you're, again, pausing the video and making these notes, okay? And then, again, the present active infinitive and the present passive infinitive for the second conjugation is exactly the same. You replace the E with the long I to make to hold and to be held. And then the present active imperative is, in the singular, is the present stem tene, and in the plural, tenete. Okay, that was a very brief review of the first two conjugations. Please bring your notes into class tomorrow. I will check them over, and we will do some activities to make sure that you remember how to ID the first and second conjugations. Have a great night, ladies.